Hello, I'm Umut Uslusoy. Welcome to the studio downstairs. We're continuing with the 8th lesson of our Ableton Live series. In the first 7 lessons, we focused more on the MIDI functions of Ableton. Now we can move on to the dark side of Ableton, which is the audio section. There are certain audio formats we use when working with audios. These are WAV, that is WAV files, and AIFFs, AF files. Or EC2 is a sample format that we use a lot. We'll be using this quite often. Sometimes we use FLAC as well. Sometimes, of course, we inevitably use the MP3 format. My advice to you is to get an external hard drive for yourself if possible. Organize your samples into a folder within this hard drive, and make sure to keep them all in one place, so you'll be able to quickly access what you want to use from the program whenever you need it. I showed this once before, but I want to remind you again. Let's get back to our program. Here are our shortcuts within the computer. For example, I've saved my own live projects here. I have done it. I've added it to my desktop. You'll need to click on Add Folder from here. For example, my disk with the samples is here. If you select this folder and click Open, it will immediately create a shortcut for you right here. My samples are here. If you don't have any samples on your computer yet, there's a video I shared earlier. You can find the link right up there. There were some really nice sample packs from a company called Sematics over there. I showed you how you can download them and how to add them to your computer there. That's why we're going to continue with the samples from these Sematics. Let's continue with the samples. When opened by default, you know that MIDI tracks and the audio came to us in pairs of channels. As of today, at least in this section of the program, we don't need the MIDIs. Let's take a look at things from Sematics. As you can see here, there are a bunch of different folders. These are my own sample banks. And when working with samples, you can generally find and download things that fit the genre of the music you produce online. And as I said, make sure to gather them all under one folder. It will be practical for you to easily access them while producing. Now from here, for example, let's use a lo-fi. It has created categories within itself, full drum loops, high-end loops, and the tempo of our piece was a new. We opened the project, it was set to 120. You remember the default. Let's say we're going to work with this sample. We set the tempo of our piece to 100. Everything in Ableton works in a drag and drop manner. If we take this clip and drag it here into the clip slot, it will create a clip from this sample. If we double-click on these while they are running, you can see the clip here. It shows the file as a waveform. This warp is Ableton's strongest. One of the areas we'll be exploring warp in our next lesson, along with the different types of warp. This audio file is a concept that allows us to manipulate it in an incredible way. This is an area where Ableton is really strong. Let's say we've decided on a drum loop. Let's look at melody loops. Our track was at 100 BPM. Let's look for something that fits 100 BPM. Yes, I will put that. Now, if you remember, each clip had its own play button. If you click on the scene section, on the right and press the play button here, it will play all the clips in that scene, meaning all the clips in the first row at once. It says 100 BPM here, but the tempo didn't match. Let's double click right away. Warp. You see a small yellow dot here? This is where the sample or clip starts. If you follow the grid here, you'll see that it's shifting this yellow one in the first part. Shall we say OK and click on it? If you do warp from here, it tries to fit this to 100 BPM within itself, but it still didn't fit. We can immediately fit this sample by selecting each of these sections one by one. Look, like this, one by one. We can immediately fit this sample by selecting it. The grid is already aligned here. Normally, the default warp algorithm is beat syncing to rhythm. It's about rhythm, and some things it's doing a sync operation. Here now there is so much. We're actually making minor adjustments. So there's no element being created that will help us find our sound. Look, it's a bit forward here. It has come forward. I want these to happen full time. So I'm making sure they fit well with the beat. If we are going to make more major changes, we often use Complex Pro within the sample we are using, within the other format we are using, namely the warp algorithm. As I mentioned, I'll be showing you this later. Now it seems to fit better. Here we see the lengths of the loops. It should normally be 4 bars. So the place where it ends here is wrong. That's why it's not fitting with the tempo. Now let's hit play again. We sat down. Once it plays once. If you noticed, it's stopping on its own. If we want both the clips we use or all the samples we will use to continue continuously, here is the interface. We need to click on the loop. Under normal circumstances, it won't allow you to click on this loop when warp is turned off. So, let's warp it by default. There's also a small thing to pay attention to in the settings, and that's it. Record. Under warp launch, there's a tab. There's an option here called warp fade. I always keep the option. Should I warp long and short semps turned off? Because when that happens, the program automatically does something on its own with the warp mechanism or algorithm. Honestly, I don't really prefer that. So, if you turn these off in the settings, it will make it easier for you to work and allow you to do everything manually the way you want. Let's hit play again. Our master is making a clip. Select 2 channels and then hold shift like this. Let's shorten it a bit. After using a lot of folders, there's a shortcut like this. It already says Command F in the search section here. If you're using Windows, it will be Control F. Let's say we're looking for a bass line when we do Command F here. Let's write bus here. How many samples do I have on my computer that contain the word bus in all my files? Whatever name or item you type in the search section here, it will search for those. Both of these samples were WAV files, meaning they were in the WAV format. For example, Rex2. There's a format called Rex automatically adjusts to the tempo of your track. From that perspective, it's very practical. It's a format. In general, you will find different formats like WAV, AIFF, and REC2 within the sample banks. Mostly, Let's give an example of a Rec 2 from here. Since we're working at 90 BPM, I wrote 90 there just to find my samples that are 90 BPM. Example like this. I don't want both double and bass. In the meantime, we have chosen sample. It was in E major. Let's search at 100 BPM. A new audio with Command T. I opened it. Our track is in D major. I found a sample here called A Funky Bass Line in D major. Now this extension is Rex 2, as you can see. They all already have it written next to them. Wow. A Rex 2 at 100 BPM. As I said, it will automatically sync to the tempo of the project you're working on. So when we play this bass line, everything will play in sync. Let's bring this to X6 again. Let's turn off the metronome. As I said before, this clip is in the movie. For example, we can copy all of them to the next sign using the Alt key. In the second part, let's say if we think in terms of arrangement logic. Let's say there won't be any drums. Let's just keep the bassline keyboard. So, this is the sign. Great. In this lesson, we have made an introduction to the audio world, which is one of the strongest aspects of Ableton Live. In the upcoming lessons, we will continue to dive deeper into the topic. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you later.